Good evening, everybody. Welcome to New Westminster School Board's regular open meeting of Tuesday. Thank you. I'd like to recognize and acknowledge the Kakite First Nation, all Coast Salish nations, Halkomelem speaking peoples on whose territory we live, we learn, we play, and we do our work. And welcome to all of those who are joining us tonight. Always nice to see people in the audience. The first item is the adoption of the agenda. We do have a couple, we have one I want to just apologize to Trustee Connolly. There was a mix-up is what I would call it, because I'm not sure exactly what happened, but the motions that she submitted for the board package are not, I think one of them is accurate and two of them are not. So I apologize for that. And I think we're going to sort that out when we get to those in the agenda. With that, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as circulated? Moved and seconded. Yes, go ahead, Trustee Connolly.
I've actually also, so that's item 8B and 8C being, I've submitted those with the actual wording that I submitted. I'm also wanting to include another motion that I had submitted and did not hear that it was not going to be included. So I would like to include under new business, the advocacy for the continuation of the BC Student and Family Affordability Fund motion that I submitted within the requisite time to submit board motions.
Okay, thank you. If it's possible to get the correct wording to the Secretary Treasurer, then she'll be able to display it on the screen. Thank you. So that will be a new 6D for that item. Okay, any other discussion or changes? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, our next item is the approval of the board's previous minutes. Can I get a motion, please, to approve the minutes as distributed for the September 23rd, 2025 regular school board meeting? It's moved. Can I get a seconder and seconded? Any discussion or questions about the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay, and district presentations. We're happy to welcome Sandra Singh, who's going to provide an update on the literacy focus report from the Framework for Enhancing Student Learning. Thank you very much. We'll just give you a moment there.
Good evening. The provincial government has invested, next slide, please. Thank you. The provincial government has invested $30 million over 3 years to improve literacy levels in students in British Columbia. This initiative broadly supports literacy development for all students with a specific focus on early literacy. This evening, Associate Superintendent Lawler and I will share the school district's progress to date with early literacy screening.
Next slide.
As we look at these images of young learners, we're reminded of why we do this work. Their curiosity, energy, and potential are at the heart of our story. This is our why, ensuring that every child can thrive through strong literacy foundations and responsive support. Let's take a closer look now at what we're doing to make that happen. Next slide. As part of our commitment to early identification and support, we've launched a comprehensive literacy screening initiative across the district. This year, all kindergarten and grade 1 students will be screened 3 times in October, February, and May. This regular cycle allows us to monitor progress, identify emerging needs, and adjust interventions accordingly. For grades 2 and 3, teachers who have previously used DIBELS 8 will continue with that tool. This will ensure consistency and continuity with our approach. But screening is just the beginning. Our district literacy facilitators are working closely with school teams to support Tier 1, 2, and 3 interventions. This means that we're not only identifying needs, we are actively responding with targeted strategies at every level. To ensure that we're making data-informed decisions, we are using EdPlan Insight to track student progress over time and promote a collaborative approach to data inquiry. This helps school teams plan and respond effectively. It helps us visualize trends, measure impact, and refine our practices. This platform also helps track performance across diverse student populations, ensuring equity and transparency. Ultimately, these initiatives reflect our district's belief that literacy is foundational and that every student deserves the right supports at the right time. Next slide. This year, the district has 2 literacy facilitators to support the school district's literacy plan. The facilitators began in early September by planning training. Early literacy screening training started in mid-September and is now complete. To summarize, 71 divisions, 104 teachers, and support staff, including ELL and LSTs, and school administrators have been trained. There will be an additional training session in early November for remaining administrators so that they may support teaching staff. Teachers in grade 2 and 3 who are already using DIBELS, which is another universal screener approved by the ministry, will continue with this practice. There is growing interest amongst staff for DIBELS in grade 2 and 3 and grades 4 and 5. Support will be provided to these teachers from the district's speech language pathologist. Next slide. The screening tool is not a long, exhaustive assessment. They are intended to be brief. They are specific. They measure specific skills and inform instruction, supports, and intervention. They are reliable. They produce consistent results and are valid, meaning the assessment tool measures the intended skill. They are predictive. The tool is an accurate indicator of future reading performance. They are administered by a teacher as teachers know their students best. Next slide. The data represents a grade 1 class at the beginning of the year. Red indicates the student is well below benchmark. Yellow indicates the student is below benchmark. Light green indicates student is at benchmark. And dark green indicates student is well above benchmark. So what exactly does that mean? The data helps teachers understand students' strengths and where they require further support. For example, if many students are finding phoneme segmentation, breaking words into individual sounds, challenging, the teacher can focus on this skill in the classroom. Teachers will work with the school team, including learning support teachers and the English language learning teacher, to determine student supports based on student learning needs. Instruction can be whole class or in small groups. Teachers can also choose to work with other group colleagues to plan small group instruction. Essentially, the goal is to ensure that every student feels confident and successful with their reading skills. Next slide. When a screener highlights a concern, diagnostic assessments are used to dive deeper, pinpointing the specific skills or areas where a student is struggling and clarifying instructional needs. Next slide. Progress monitoring determines whether students are making adequate progress towards their goals. Progress monitoring answers a key question to teachers. Is my instruction working? And informs where changes and adjustments need to be made. Next slide. So here is another example of the effectiveness of screening and progress monitoring. Within our district, we have classes that are already taking part in screeners. This slide shows the results from a grade 2 class DIBELS oral reading fluency assessment. DIBELS ORF measures how fluently students can read grade level texts out loud, which is a strong indicator of overall reading proficiency. The assessment looks at words correct per minute and accuracy, helping teachers identify students who may need additional support in fluency and decoding. In this class, we observed a range of performance at the beginning of the year. Some students were reading well above benchmark, showing strong fluency and comprehension. Others are approaching or below benchmark, indicating a need for targeted interventions. These results help guide small group instruction and resource support, ensuring each student gets what they need to grow as a reader. Throughout the school year, teachers continue to monitor progress through regular fluency checks and adjust instruction accordingly. Next slide.
Okay, as we look ahead, our focus remains on strengthening early literacy through proactive, research-informed strategies. First, we're continuing to support K-3 teachers with early literacy screening. This helps us identify students who may be at risk for reading difficulties, including dyslexia, so we can intervene early and effectively. We're also committed to supporting Tier 1, 2, and 3 instruction using evidence-based strategies. This means ensuring all students receive high-quality core instruction, while those who need additional support get targeted interventions that are proven to work. To make these interventions meaningful, we're helping educators build confidence in data analysis and interpretation. By understanding what the data tells us, teachers can make informed decisions that directly impact student learning. The district literacy planning table space brings together voices from across our entire K-12 system. Teachers, administrators, district staff, and specialists all bring their perspectives to the table. We share what's working, identify challenges, and align our efforts. And because it spans K-12, it ensures that our literacy work is not happening in silos. It's a part of a cohesive, district-wide vision to support all learners. Finally, we are expanding professional learning opportunities, not just for classroom teachers, but also for non-enrolling staff
and CUPE members. Everyone who works with students plays a role in literacy development, and we want to make sure they have access to the knowledge that they need. These steps reflect our belief that literacy is a shared responsibility and that with the right supports, every student can become a confident, capable reader. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the report. It's so exciting to hear about the screening. And I know staff also hosted the National Literacy Symposium last week, which was amazing. I was there to pick up the sound technician, and people did not want the evening to end, even though it was getting on late. It was wonderful. Trustees, any questions or comments? Trustee Andres.
Thanks for this update. I think it's really helpful for the board to see how all of these kind of efforts are coming together and just how unified and thorough the process is. I was curious just about how soon parents get brought into this process. So if their child is not making progress or is not kind of meeting those benchmarks, at what point are we communicating out to families and making sure that they know what's going on in the classroom? Thanks.
Thank you for the question. So when we're looking at the early literacy screener, of course, that informs teachers, and as they continue to provide the supports that the student need, that will then inform them in a timely way when they can reach out to parents. And certainly in our school district, we have made clear communication with parents through our brochure that has gone out to all schools and was also offered at the kindergarten evening. And we firmly believe that partnership is so important. So anytime a parent or a caregiver would like to reach out and ask specific questions pertaining to their child's progress in reading, teachers are happy to support and answer those questions. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Trustee Sluse.
Yeah, thanks for this presentation. I'm very supportive of using evidence to guide our work around early literacy, and so happy to actually see it up there. We've also worked really hard to make sure our IEPs are strength-based. And I feel like there's some tension between, the data we see up there and identifying kids who, need the supports and it's important for us to know where the deficits are and where the support is needed, but I also want to be really cautious about potential stigma and lowering expectations, specifically for students who are part of equity seeking groups. So my question is about how are we overcoming this? What is it? Training? Is it supports for teachers? How do we make sure that a kid who's in this group is not forever in this group or seen as a kid in that group?
Superintendent Davidson.
So can you hear me? I'm not that muffled. So part of the way that we address that is it starts with our language and mindset. So we would suggest that a student is drawing tier 2 services, not that the student is a tier 2 student, right? We would say that a student is drawing supports when it comes to this element of their language learning, as opposed to this is a student who's struggling with this area of their language learning. And I know that it sounds like it's just words, but it really isn't. It's identifying that this person today requires this kind of support in order to get where they can be. And I know that in systems that have really well developed as we're growing, strategies around continuums of support and response to intervention the districts that are really mindful of the fact that you're talking about the type of intervention that supports a learner as opposed to the type of learner who needs an intervention, it really does matter. And that's present in the language that I've seen throughout the work that Director Singh has done.
Go ahead, Trustee Carlson.
Thank you for this. Could I just confirm what I heard earlier? That parents are to reach out to their teacher if they have concerns, whether their student's been tested or not?
Teachers will definitely reach out in terms of if there is an area of support that is required for the learner in terms of reading. As I mentioned before, it is a partnership. So parents can reach out and teachers are communicative and they keep in touch with parents. So certainly it will be a partnership in terms of relaying any assessments and scores and next steps to support the learner. Welcome.
Trustee Connolly.
I don't have a question. I just have more of a comment, and I just wanted to express gratitude and appreciation. I was at the Dyslexia BC screening event last week, and it was really, it was so wonderful to see, the expertise of newest staff being drawn upon at that event. And I just want to express, gratitude that you're out there on the front lines and at the forefront of this type of work. So it makes me feel good that students in New West are in very, very good hands. So thank you.
So I want to thank you for your work. I also want to just tell a really quick story. I promise it's quick. But we spend times in schools as liaison leaders visiting with principals. And I was visiting one of the schools that I go to regularly, and they opened up the data dashboard that's in the software where those screens are recorded. And we took a look at two classes of the same grade and looked at the distribution of the colors of red and yellow. And we imagined what kind of response could happen. And it was really neat to follow the conversation from a teacher might respond in this way. A teacher might meet with the other teacher and respond in this way. A teacher might meet with another teacher and the LST who supports students in those classes and respond in another way. That before the day was done, I was gone, they had scheduled a conversation where they were going to get together and talk about how they could build a targeted intervention block, 3 teachers, along with support staff, with those students taken together in order to say, okay, a bunch of students require intervention or support in this aspect of their reading. I have some great strategies for that. Let's group them according to their need for intervention, and then we'll work with those students. So you're talking about relative strengths. You're talking about sharing responsibility for students. You're having teachers teaching other teachers skills that they might not have shared otherwise. So it's not just that it provides us with great information. It invites us to conversations where we're not left answering the and now what question all by ourselves. We're able to do it with colleagues, which helps build a culture of collaboration, all at the core of why we're doing these things. So thank you for all your work. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Okay, next up, we have a delegation from Kakite Elementary, early French immersion parents of Kakite. And I think Michelle organized this, but I think there's a couple of you presenting. Okay, great. Welcome, Junior. And if you can just push the button, give it a second, and then just introduce your full name for the minutes. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Junior Chuang, and I'm here on behalf of the early French immersion families at the Kakai Elementary School. So I'm here presenting on behalf of Michelle and Nelson, who's very kindly put this together, but it represents the voice of majority of us within this program. Next slide, please. So I think a couple of things that we really want to talk about today is the things that really concern the family that's going to be impacted by the plan of a consolidation. Some of the challenges that we're facing and some of the proposed solutions and how we're approaching this issue here. Next slide, please. So I just want to bring everyone on the same page and make sure that we have a common understanding. I think majority of us in this room recognize that this move is important, and I think it is has a lot of potential to be beneficial for all involved, right? We're consolidating the French program as per recommendation. We are alleviating some oversized crowding issues at Kakai Elementary, and at the same time using the underutilized projected spaces that Herbert Spencer provides, right? And I think majority of us really wants this to work, and the goal for the family really is to ensure that we have the support so that all Kakai EFI students are able to make that transition to Herbert Spencer next year, right? Maximize what we're trying to do here. So next slide, please. So what are the challenges that we're looking at? So there are two. First is transportation. We had a poll of all the family that's within the Kakai EFI, and we have found that 80% of the families, so representing 99 children, currently use either some form of active transportation or walk to get to school, right? And to put that in another perspective, so as you know, aware, there's a walking school bus program at Kakai, two of them actually. So as an example, the key through downtown route to Kakai, out of the 40 kids, 21 of them are in the EFI program. So even though EFI, it's only what, 1/6 of the Kakai total capacity, a large proportion of them are actually, actively using active transportation. And for that to be moved to Herbert Spencer, distance is an issue. From the key, it's 3.2 kilometers to Herbert Spencer, almost all uphill for the route. And a lot of the families within this cohort actually do not own a car. So for the family to be able to transport their kids, we're looking at walking them to school, we're looking at transit. And if you have two working parents, this is going to be very, very difficult, right? Next slide, please. The second challenge that we're facing here is the question around before and after care. So 72% of the families currently, representing 90 children, have after school or before after school care in place with Kakai. And with Kakai, we're looking at 10 different after school programs that works with the school, kids that go to that school. And New West, as we all know, have very long wait lists, unfortunately, for these before and after care programs. And the reality really is, and we try to talk to some of the current providers right now, that realistically, no Kakai family that's going to be entering Herbert Spencer next year is going to have, will be moving off the wait list for one of the Herbert Spencer after programs. And it might be the reality that some of the kids might graduate before they even get into a before and after program just because the wait list is long. And they are telling us without district intervention, they're telling us that there's no way they're going to be able to move any of our kids, even in the same line or spot as the Herbert Spencer kids. Next slide, please. So we are trying to find solution, one thing that we're trying to answer is how are we going to transport 124 students? Because keep in mind that these are elementary school kids. They're not middle school. They're not quite independent enough. We have kids as young as kindergarten and grade 1, right? There's just no way that they can be on the bus on their own, right? Even a hypothetical scenario where all the parents decide to pony up and get a car, right? Is it really a viable solution to get 124 additional cars, to Herbert Spencer from downtown during those hours? So what we are looking at is things like, can we increase the frequency of the bus? Because currently I think the 105, it would serve that purpose, but it only comes every half hour, right? And the capacity for the bus is not very big, and we're sharing with the rest of the community. There's often already as is lineup to get on the 105 bus, right? We're also looking at potential of some sort of walking hybrid school bus program where, maybe there will be designated pickup and drop-off points that the family can gather at. But we would need some sort of coordination, a coordinator role that can kind of facilitate that, at the very least for the first bit, as the family are trying to find, better solutions going forward, right? Next slide, please. The second thing is the childcare portion. So really we need that 90, right now, the need is that 90 after-school spaces for these families that need either before or after care going to Herbert Spencer, right? And there are some options we're exploring. We are talking to different providers and seeing if there are appetite to either increase space or take in a cohort that or even an existing place that has service Kakai, if they would potentially look into having a branch out of Herbert Spencer if that's possible, right? Seamless is one that we've been looking at as an example that could work at Herbert Spencer, but again, the issue around waitlist, I think, if they're opening up, I think a lot of Herbert Spencer family are on a wait list. There's just no way for us to, be there, right? Next slide, please. So I think from the families here, I think we are very concerned, and we want to say that, if we do the consolidation without, ample warning, it's really inequitable, right? We do understand that the report came out, 2 years ago, right? I think a lot of families are wishing that there was some sort of communication even leading up to this, kind of say, hi, heads up, like, we have this report out, like, we don't, we understand that there's never a good time to transition families, or there's never a good time to that it will be less disruptive for the families, right? Something has to give, but really a 1-year timeline is very short. And if we're looking at it and saying that there's nothing we can do, like there's nothing we can do before September that we can get you these transportation solutions. There's nothing we can do to get you these childcare spots. How are we as individual families supposed to find solution, right? If we can't collectively have something together. Like I don't know if looking at delaying the timeline is viable, but if not, we're hoping that the board can work with us to try to reach a common ground, because we do want this to work and we want to do our portion in what's best for our kids and the families, right? And I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Junior, and to all the EFI Kakite parents. This is a really remarkable pack. I think you all see how thoughtful and well-informed this pack is, and you've put a lot of work into how to surmount these challenges. So I want to really thank you for coming, for the work on the presentation. I know the board has heard you. The matter is up in the later in the agenda under agenda item 7C, which if we're on schedule would be at about 7, but I think we're a little bit not too bad. And then there's also a comment and question period at the end of the meeting for folks who wanted to make a comment or ask to clarify the discussions at that section of the agenda. So I think I'll leave it there, again, with thanks and appreciation, and we'll address some of those points when we get to them.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Okay, I do not have any correspondence in the package. We're at board committee reports and the coordinating committee of October 9th, and pass it over to the committee chair, Trustee Connolly.
I'll just be very quick. I just wanted to say thank you to the City of New West staff who came and gave their time and gave a presentation to the committee. It was very insightful and I think useful for the committee members to have that presentation. So I think that's where I'll leave it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So the recommendation is that the Board of Education of School District Number 40 Westminster approve the minutes for the October 9th, 2025 Coordinating Committee meeting. Can I get a mover to that effect? Thank you. It's been moved. And can I get a seconder? Need a different seconder. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, and we're at reports from senior management. Superintendent Davidson has a update on the operational plan that they've been working hard on.
Thank you, Chair. You'll see in your packages summaries of the operational plans for each of almost every department in our jurisdiction. There are a couple that are going to come in a little later because, frankly, they needed to see a lot of what everyone else was doing in order to inform their work. So those will come in shortly. Literacy and numeracy will be one, and then we'll also provide something from communications and from our vice principal for safe and caring schools. But it's all connected to work that we're doing elsewhere, so those will all come in shortly. The intent of those documents is to ensure that the work that's being done throughout the jurisdiction aligns with the board's strategic plan, which was just recently completed. We're pleased that present in all of those plans is a clear and direct connection to the goals of the district, as well as connection to Indigenous ways of knowing and understanding that any goal that we set needs to be accompanied by a measure. And so you'll see reference to all of those. Very detailed operational plan will be completed and provided to the board shortly. Wanted to share some other things that are going on in the district as well. Middle school volleyball, just this last week and this had the first and second of 3 tournaments that they're having to have a little bit of a season of play for middle school volleyball within the district. And once they've played those 3 tournaments, they'll have a little championship round, and the district is supporting them in bringing them together to have those days. I was pleased to be at the very first tournament out there in Queensboro, and the gym was packed and the screaming. There's something about volleyball that produces a level of screaming that is unparalleled, and it was amazing to watch, and got to have lots of conversations with families and with staff who were thrilled to be there, and the kids were demonstrating they were thrilled because they were loud. They were having a good time. Want to also share with you that last year we had a sports day that the district supported, bringing together kiddos from grade 5 from across the system. That will expand this year to include grade 4s. The system supported ribbons and treats and transportation and all that kind of stuff to that event. Oh, no, not transportation, release time for staff to be present to put on those events. I got emails after from teachers who said they hadn't seen their kids engage with kids from other schools in so long because it had been a thing that had sort of drifted away, and they're really excited to see it back. All of this is connected to our goal to have more students become engaged earlier and remain engaged in sport in a way that fits their lifestyle and makes them happy. And so we're doing some work in middle school, and it'll expand to secondary school around supporting equity in sport. We have made good use of parts of the affordability fund, which is now expired, and in order to make fees affordable and to ensure that young people in our middle schools and secondary schools are able to participate in sport. Just this year, we added a second athletic director to each of the middle schools so that there would be one male, female, or one non-binary person who students could see themselves in the athletic department. It spreads out some of the work, but it also brought different perspectives to conversations about how to support sport in those schools, and we're pretty excited about what's going on there. Associate Superintendent Lawler worked last year to address disparity in fees in order to create a window of fees so that there was a hard top on those fees, and we're working at ways to bring those fees down or keep them in check as much as possible. We're working hard to explore ways of increasing engagement from all members of our community. We recently hired a district principal for Indigenous education and for equity, and Sans Johal is his name. He's going to be doing work with students, staff, families at our middle and secondary schools around the notion of equity in sport, providing opportunity to all people to participate in sport and removing barriers, identifying and removing barriers related to any protected class and including folks who struggle in terms of financial ability to participate. So that's a work that he's undertaking this year, and we'll work closely with folks in our schools in order to address. The fine arts are flying. So I don't know if you've ever been in a middle school at the very start of the year and heard the band practice, but it's something. And it's what is also something is how good they sound 5 or 6 weeks in, how much change there is. So I know that middle schools are getting ready for winter concerts and pretty excited about that. There'll be a little Halloween show up at the high school. QMS is all into rehearsals for The Little Mermaid, and I walked in on their class practicing those songs, and they seem pretty thrilled to sing, and I was thrilled to listen and pretend to sing along. I think there are a lot of amazing things happening in the system. I'm so happy that when I go from school to school and we have conversations about things like literacy and numeracy and sport and play and safety and accountability, we're starting to develop shared language around what that means. We're starting to develop an understanding that we accomplish a great deal more when we pull together and when there's greater continuity between schools, because we have much to learn from one another. And I'm extremely proud of the work that our schools are doing. Probably the thing I'm most proud of is the willingness that we have as a jurisdiction to take a look at the things we do well, but also at the things we could do better, and own those things and face them. And I'm very proud of our partner groups. I'm proud of the teachers and EAs in our schools and our site administration and community for facing challenges with us. This is a very exciting place.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Davidson. That's fantastic. I see we've got a couple of questions from trustees. Trustee Dallowell.
Thanks, Mark. I just had a couple of comments to make regarding the operational plans, just like two things that very minor flags that I just wanted to note. One of the things for the Indigenous education and equity, one of the key success indicators is improved student survey results. And I think one like sort of flag that comes into my mind is that we don't collect demographic data for those services, which I think can make it challenging for us to be able to assess success through an equitable lens. So I think that that may be something that we want to consider including in order to meet that goal. And then the other one was just regarding the international education goal. So I saw that it says maintain or grow international students, and I feel like that's a departure from board direction in the past, just given the capacity crisis that, from my understanding, we were at a spot where we were going to reduce or maintain. So I'm wondering, I guess, if you can just share your thoughts around that.
Well, I think that's right. I think that's something we need to review with Trevor, because our goal really is to maintain, but if need be, to reduce in order to address capacity. So that's a good catch.
Thank you. Trustee Connolly.
Well, that was one of my comments as well around the international education. But just wanted to say it's very exciting to hear about the district-wide activity day. I know that that's been something that certainly has been, I hear often that folks are wanting and students are wanting. So that's really exciting. And yeah, just great to hear the updates of everything that's happening in the schools, and appreciate that. Thank you.
Trustee Sluice.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate the update around the athletics work that's happening. Mark, I know you know this is really important to me. And Trustee Connolly and I had brought a motion forward a while back around athletic equity. I think we're making great progress and I'm thrilled about that. And I love seeing the schedule for the NWSS intramurals too, second year now, which is super. We still have a massive discrepancy between the experience of girls and boys on high school athletic teams. And so I really can't wait to dig into that. Love to suggest if maybe what we need is like a partnership with a post-secondary institution, a student project, something to sort of dig deep into this, do a real dive into it and to understand what we can do in order to make sure that those experiences aren't like this. They're more equitable. So yeah, you knew I was going to say that, and there you go.
So I think something that I said just before the questions came was that part of what I appreciate about this place is we're willing to look at the things we do well and the things that we don't do well and work to be better. I think that the work that Sanj will do in collaboration with students and families and staff and so on, in order to determine what can be done and what are the barriers will help us get there. You know, some of those barriers are ones that we don't create, but we can help put a ladder up next to it so that our kids can clear it. And some of them are barriers that we create without knowing. And that once someone helps us name them, we can get after fixing them. I think the notion of partnership is a good idea. I know that Sanj is already involved in partnership with post-secondary as it relates to other aspects of his portfolio, and so I'm sure he would absolutely go after that. I shared with him a resource that I think you said to me, and he's already reached out to them, to have University of Toronto, to have some conversations with them about how to examine equity with respect to supporting girls in sport and so on. So yeah, he's sharp, hardworking, and he's going after it. So yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from trustees for the superintendent? Okay, great. Thank you. We'll move then to Queen Elizabeth Elementary expansion, which is moving along at a great clip, and particularly the Neighborhood Learning Center. So I think we have Rick online and Ileana Nielsen in person to give us an update on the plans for that space.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. Rick Blodell, Manager of Community Projects and Partnerships, and I started about a year ago in the fall of 2024 to engage with various community partners to research and gather information, to map out existing services, to explore partnerships opportunities for the brand new Neighborhood Learning Center at Queen Elizabeth Elementary. A neighborhood learning center is a community hub within a school where families can access a variety of programs and services to support their well-being. We shared the summary of findings with the district and Queen Elizabeth Elementary leadership, and in June of 2025, the Board of Education formally expressed its support for exploring opportunities for Strong Start and broader community partnerships in a meaningful way to share the space and welcome the community into the new Neighborhood Community Learning Center. This fall marks the start of our public information and consultations phase. Tomorrow, on October 29, Rick and I will be presenting information to the PAC meeting at Queen Elizabeth Elementary. And starting on November 3rd to November 17, a community-wide survey will be available on the Queen Elizabeth Elementary School, Queensborough Middle School, and our school district website. We are inviting Queensborough families and the community members to share their thoughts as part of the public consultation process. And to invite them to share possible services to be included in the Neighborhood Learning Center that could include newcomer support, health and wellness, early years programming, before and after school care, senior programming, after school programming, So a variety of services. Following the survey collection, which again starts on from November 3rd to November 17th, 2025, we are going to present the summary of information in a follow-up analysis in January of 2026. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Any questions, trustees, or comments? Trustee Carlson, go ahead.
Thank you for this. I'm just wondering how this information gets out to people who are not in the schools.
Yes, so we are in our engagement, in our public engagement, we are sharing information through the school messenger, through school newsletter, at PAC, and our school website.
Okay, I guess I'm just worried because this is for many families whose children aren't in the schools yet. So, and we don't have a local newspaper. So how does this information reach people who are not in the schools? And is there a place to have this in different languages?
While staff think about that, I can share there is a new local paper that launched, I think a couple of weeks ago, which I was so happy to see because yeah, this is one of the areas where we're really missing that really important information sharing.
So
Superintendent Davidson, we might have to take that in advisement, I think. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, but good point. Thank you. Trustee Andres.
Thank you, Ileana, for clearly laying out the process of consultation. I know that's going to be really important for families as we try to get our services to match our community's needs. And I'm just really excited that Queensborough is finally getting, services which, have been at the high school, but have been very hard for families to access. And I think that that's a really important thing that the district is doing. So thank you for your efforts in this. I'm just wondering if we had an update on, not a question for you, when Queen Elizabeth, the expansion is going to be completed and just, if we're on track and what that may look like. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. At this point, the project appears to be on track, and so the January 2027 is when the project will be completed. We've reached a number of significant milestones to date, which indicate that that at this point that there are no indications that will be beyond that date. And as the progress of the project continues to unfold, we will bring some additional board updates from our capital projects director in the coming weeks and months.
That's awesome. Trustee Conley.
I'm just wondering if there's been any consideration to the idea of like a satellite welcome center being included in the NLC, so
Yes.
students don't or families don't have to come.
Yes, yes. As part of the newcomer support, that would be an extension of the Welcome Center as an option, or community navigation, language classes, one-on-one meetings with settlement team, and other programs of this type.
Guess I'm referring more to registering your child for kindergarten.
Yes,
Those services that are offered at the high school right now, the Welcome Center there, if some of those could be offered, yeah.
that
okay.
is correct. Yeah.
That's okay. That's part of the package, I
Yes,
think, of what you're
yes.
putting forward. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Thank
No
you.
other questions? Thank you so much for the update. Really excited to see the school taking shape and we're looking forward to the consultation and discussion about those services. Next up is 7C short-term capacity review strategies from Secretary Treasurer Ketchum.
Thank you. I'll be joined by some of my colleagues, Associate Superintendent Lawler, and Superintendent Davidson will join me as we navigate this conversation. So obviously capacity planning is not a new topic to the Board of Education in our community. We have been facing a rapid rate of growth in our community for quite some time, and we see evidence of this by the bursting number of portables on site, and the board is strongly advocating for additional permanent capacity by way of new schools and facilities And we're hopeful to hear some positive news announcement in the coming short while here. In order to bridge the gap, however, there typically is a period of time where we are under construction and that capacity needs to be met with some shorter and medium-term measures to allow for the student enrollment growth during that interim stage. And so this presentation is a focus on how the district plans to meet those capacity pressures and needs over that short while we are building our permanent capacity. So I'd like to bring us back to April 2024, when the board was very actively engaged in guiding principles for short-term capacity. Some of the recent conversations we've had that have led to these conversations and the outcomes would be an example of the 5-block model that we implemented at the high school as an example of how these principles have translated into real-world strategies for execution for our district. In this particular slide, this focuses on K-8 short-term capacity guiding principles. And I won't read them off here, but it certainly prioritizes a space in a certain sequence and prioritizes in-catchment regular enrollment as an area of priority for the board. These were passed again in April 2024, and the work that the staff does is in concert and consistent with these guiding principles directed. So in terms of strategies for implementation, what we're trying to provide during this presentation and our conversations as we carry on are that these are roadmap strategies that we would like to employ over the next number of years. The execution and timing is a little less precise because those will be guided by enrollment. As I've mentioned, in the last number of years, we've seen a very rapid rate of growth. Fueled by immigration policies, fueled by positive economics in BC and Canada. In recent times, we've seen a very dramatic shift in government policies on immigration. We've seen geopolitics come into play. We've seen outmigration from BC to other parts of Canada, all factors that impact enrollment across the district in the medium, short, and long term. So what we would like to do is, again, communicate strategies in terms of generalities. And as we navigate specific changes, we will do so in the year prior to the implementation. So as an example, if we are going to make a change for September 2026, we would likely communicate that change a year in advance in November 2025, as an example. The strategies that staff have considered and are contemplating over the next number of years are this. We are looking to reconfigure grades, for example, bringing grade 6s down into the elementary school level. That would be represent a permanent restructure over time. How that helps us in the short term is that when space does become available at certain sites, that is an opportunity to trigger that implementation in certain sites to alleviate space in middle schools, as an example. There'll be a couple of slides to further unpack that, and the associate superintendent will provide some assistance in explaining that reconfiguration and the benefits educationally resulting. We'd also be looking to our programs of choice, ensuring that they are financially sustainable, educationally sustainable from a quality perspective, and housed in areas where they can be appropriately accommodated. We would be looking to school lotteries, something that we've been able to avoid up to this point in time, but our AP 300 for enrollments does contemplate and allow for that as a potential strategy to redirect students out of their regular catchment into another school with some space. Another strategy that you have seen employed to date is the use of portables. That will continue to be something that we can rely on, but our hope is to reduce reliance on that because space is becoming short, and obviously there is a financial pressure on the operating budget as there is no support from the ministry from a capital perspective to support the purchase of these portables. And finally, as a very last resort measure, and one that we hope to never employ, but it is one that we're investigating, is the conversion of non-enrolling space to instructional space. So that could mean converting whether it's libraries or gymnasiums or music rooms and things of that nature into instructional space where students do their learning. So in terms of grade reconfiguration, I'll just turn it over to the Associate Superintendent for a couple slides.
Okay, thank you. So as Bettina mentioned, a part of our long-term strategy is to look at grade reconfiguration. And we are hoping to, in doing this, address overcrowding that we're seeing and optimize learning environments. So we're proposing this grade reconfiguration where elementary becomes K to 6, middle becomes 7 to 9, and secondary becomes 10 to 12. And as Bettina also mentioned, it's important to emphasize that this would be a permanent change, though it would be done in phases as space and infrastructure is ready for that. So our goal would be in doing this to create a more balanced and future-ready system that helps balance our enrollment and meets the needs of all learners. Next slide, please. So in supporting the grades 7 to 9 configuration, there are some key findings. For example, you may have seen a recent CBC article on September 25th. This one came out. And there's ongoing debate right now about the optimal grade configurations for student success and well-being. There's studies being done in the province of Ontario as they are relooking now at grade configurations for middle school. We know that middle schools in Canada really first came into fruition back in 1960, and we're now trying to determine if they are doing what we want them to do in our modern now school systems. So we know that students transitioning later, it can lead to better academic and emotional outcomes, that this aligns more with adolescent development, and it supports academic continuity and readiness for high school. The particular study that I found coming out of Ontario tells us that grade 6 students who were in middle school settings were seen to be performing lower on standardized tests for literacy and numeracy. This particular configuration also would allow the high school to focus on the graduation program. So by taking the 9s out of the high school, we would be focusing on 10, 11, 12 graduation program pathways. And of course, we are committed, as always, to thoughtful planning and clear communication and collaboration as we move through this kind of a change. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a numbery slide. So just wanted to demonstrate quickly and visually what this would look like. In the upper half of the slide, you can see the current grade configurations of K to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12, and their various timeline on what the projected enrollment currently looks like under our existing configuration. You can see on the very right-hand side that the shortfall about 10 years out from now would suggest a very significant shortfall in elementary, about 480 middle school seat shortfall in middle, and then a 552 seat shortfall in secondary. This assumes no new projects at this time and will be factored in once a new announcement for a school happens to be made. Under the second table, you can see the reconfiguration of K to 6, 7 to 9, 10, 12, and you're probably thinking, well, the numbers are equally as alarming. But what you'll notice is that the secondary pressures are then dispersed to effectively the elementary school where you're adding a new grade there. What that will necessitate as part of our long-term planning is additional elementary schools in the district, and it does avoid a new secondary school in the shorter term, and there's educational benefits as the associate superintendent mentioned in terms of the reconfiguration of those grades. So again, a change like this would drive and inform our long-range facility planning in terms of the requests we put through to government. Again, the conversations for the short term, however, would only play out in the event that we do have space to accommodate grade sixes in the elementary school, which is the longer term strategy overall. So it's not just a whack-a-mole approach. It is being done with some thought in terms of how we want to structure schools in future. In terms of the Fraser River Middle Zone, we know that there is accelerated growth in that area. So grade 6 reconfiguration could only be possible once a new elementary school comes online, and we are hopeful to hear something fairly shortly here. What that would allow us to do is take advantage of portables that are already in place to be able to absorb or accept the grade 6s into the elementary schools, while we are able to then advocate and build some new additional capacity at the elementary school level. In the Glenbrook zone, the revised projections show a slower rate of growth than the Fraser River zone. So the option to transition to grade 6 reconfiguration may happen sooner than the Fraser River zone. So it's not an all or nothing approach. It's not one where we can do an entire zone and not the other. It will sort of have to happen as we are able to create space for it. In terms of pivoting to our next topic, one of the strategies that we had mentioned earlier was revisiting our programs of choice. And so one such conversation that is actively happening is the Kakite move to Herbert Spencer. So this move, or the proposed move, is consistent with the guiding principles, as you saw earlier, for 2024. It is one that is recommended under the 2023 Program of Choice Review, and done and recommended for the purposes of creating a larger, fuller, richer program for the French immersion experience, and is also consistent with our Administrative Procedure 220 on programs of choice, where it references that programs of choice will be housed in facility where space permits, which are suitable to the program and may be subject to relocation. The proposal here is that the commenced move will happen for September 2026, and we're taking advantage of a maturing neighborhood of Herbert Spencer, where we're seeing declines in enrollment. At present, there are 2 classrooms available for use. Next year, we anticipate enrollment to further decrease, just again, that maturing population. And so there is an opportunity there to take advantage of that space and relocate students of the EFI program from Kakite to utilize those spaces at Herbert Spencer. Again, there's a number of assumptions being made where we have yet to approach the community to survey or ask the questions of the intent of the students and families to move to the program. And so the number of classes that are being added to Herbert Spencer won't be known until that expression of intent is solidified and that we capture the kindergarten registration. One thing to highlight and note is that this is a relocation. There is no reduction in the number of EFI spaces across the district. The distance between Herbert Spencer and Kakite is 1.4 kilometers, but I wanted to acknowledge that, of course, the Kakite catchment is long and narrow, and I believe in the EFI parent presentation referenced something like 3.4 kilometers as the sort of max distance. So it's not lost on us that there is a larger distance than the one reference in the slide of just being point to point. Some considerations and some highlights is that, certainly while we appreciate that the challenge, there are challenges for some in this relocation, that it does represent a positive outcome from an educational perspective, which is consistent with the program of choice review. We may have to purchase portables, but we won't know until we get that expression of intent. There's no way to know how much additional space will be needed. But again, looking to take advantage of the existing space that are there. We are looking to take a high growth neighborhood and spread that enrollment growth out to areas such as the Glenbrook zone, which have tended to grow at a slower pace. And that will benefit the Kakite community because it might potentially open up to 6 classrooms, again, assuming the full relocation, if that takes place of the entire cohort of students. We have some upcoming community engagements in November 2025. And then the program of choice registration is slated, as it always is, to happen in January 2026. I just wanted to show visually for some of you that haven't seen it, just what the underutilized capacity is. So what you can see here is the red line denoting the capacity of the school, and then the line and the color sort of tracking in the sort of S-shaped pattern. And you'll see that there is a gap between the enrollment level projected and the capacity levels at the school, which we are looking to take advantage of when we perform the relocation. Post relocation, and again, we don't know how many students are going to move, but you can see here if the full complement of students moved over, it would increase the number of students at Herbert Spencer. But again, there's a trend line where there's a leveling out of the enrollment at that school. And once a new school comes online, where we build purpose-built space and have a more capacity, we will look to redistribute catchment areas across the entire district to balance all these factors out in terms of pockets of high growth. We acknowledge that there are a number of concerns we've heard so far. Those were presented here today. We understand that transportation and childcare are areas that we've heard parents express challenges in. From a transportation perspective, the district has reached out to Translink and Coastbound to advise them of the impending change. They will, as they do, monitor various routes, and based on ridership or weights, they are responsible for making those adjustments. We can only bring forward our observations and potential changes to let them know that these changes are coming. Similarly, we've already taken the action of reaching out to the Society for Children and Youth of BC, who operate the walking school bus program. Our intent there is to help facilitate a relationship for those that are interested in pursuing this type of option. You know, we know that there are some algorithms and some surveys that they can run to be able to create an appropriate path for parents of EFI students looking to take advantage of a service like this. From a childcare perspective, again, we've advised our community partner WCAS of the upcoming program relocation, giving them plenty of notice on the changes that are coming, and have tried to facilitate the parents' connection to the program provider so that they know who to outreach to should they require care and services for their students. In terms of milestone dates, obviously we're having this conversation today. It is not the first, but there have been a number leading up to this. But tonight represents another conversation about capacity and specifically about the EFI consolidation. November 20th, stay tuned. There will be some invitations coming to the EFI parent groups of both schools, Herbert Spencer and Kakite, to engage in discussion and information sharing. It will be slated for November 20th, and there'll be an opportunity to submit questions so that when we come to that meeting date, we will be armed with responses of information that parents are interested in. December 8th is the date that we're targeting for an expression of intent to move, to send out to Kakite families for grades 1 to 4 so that we understand what level of interest and intent there is for students relocating so that we can better plan for the transition. And finally, for kindergarten registrations, the program of choice will start in January 2026, as it typically does, where the kindergarten enrollment will be redirected from Kakite to Herbert Spencer. Again, the intake will be for 2 cohorts of students, not just the one that we've seen in the past. So again, no reduction in the number of students for EFI. That concludes my presentation, and happy to take any questions from the board.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, trustees, questions or comments? I know we've discussed this one quite a few times. I think maybe just for the benefit of those in the room, could you maybe just explain, it was asked, why can't we phase the program out slowly just as kids graduate? Could we maybe address that one?
The challenge that we experience when we do that is that folks will make the decision to go early or swap out and go into English, and then what you end up with is really small and strange class sizes in either space. So people don't accept the phasing and just sort of move year over year. As soon as their oldest goes, then when their youngest comes, they're going to want them to go, or if their youngest is coming up and their kid is in grade 4, they're going to move them for grade 5 before the other hits kindergarten, so they're in the same school. So you don't end up having this orderly transition as you imagine. It just never shakes down that way. And then what you end up with is small and odd size classes in both schools that are harder to sustain.
Thank you, Trustee Andres, and then Trustee Connolly.
Thanks for this. I just want to go back to the presentation earlier and just wanted to thank the parents for putting together something that was so thoughtful and well organized. And I hear your anxiety as well as your hope, right? That this can go really smoothly, but that there are challenges here that the board and the district can play a role in overcoming. And I guess I just want to add some further context just as we're talking about this. You know, we on page 43 of the presentation today, some of you may have seen that's talking about our plan for childcare and how we, you know, are hopeful to add 200 spaces in the next 4 years by 2030. And a lot of this is dependent on this enabling legislation that some of you may or may not know about. So I'll just kind of share a little bit about that here. And so this is just a quote from the province's website. So it's about the tabling of Bill 19. So this occurred on Tuesday, October 7th. This is called the School Amendment Act. If passed, this act will enable school districts to provide childcare to children of all ages, including infants and toddlers. Districts also will be allowed to provide care during non-school days, such as professional development days and winter, spring, and summer breaks. These changes could also improve the ability of school districts to support sustainable childcare programs or expansions by ensuring districts can recover reasonable costs, similar to how not-for-profit centers can operate. School district will work with local communities and First Nations to inform expansion planning and how best to meet community needs. I think the timing of this announcement falls in this kind of space where we are also hopeful for what this language means and our ability to provide these services to you, our families, and yet we are in this moment of uncertainty in terms of, you know, how that will play out and what that funding will look like for our district. And I think that that's where we both have that same feeling. I think the other piece for us is the walking school bus, and I'm hopeful the district, I hear what we're saying in our efforts to support, facilitate this relationship, and I'm wondering if the district can take a larger role in this walking school bus instead of just being the facilitator, but potentially leading. And I don't know if that's inappropriate because of the nature of the not-for-profit and that relationship, but I am curious about this. And I know my other trustees have lots to say as well, so I'll cede the rest of my time to the chair.
Yeah, I mean, our engagement with partners and potential partners is more than passive. Like we're working hard to impress upon them how important it is to us and to invite their suggestions on how we can work together to make things happen. So we're not limiting ourselves to how it's been necessarily. We're inviting conversations about what could be and how we might approach it differently in order to try and make it happen for families.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I know, I did notice, catch that language as well, and I've definitely been hearing regular updates that are quite vigorous in nature. I think we just want to be really careful not to overpromise a service that we don't ourselves control. Sorry, speakers list. Trustee Connolly. Okay, Trustee Carlson.
Sorry, thank you. Great presentation, Junior. Thank you for sharing so thoughtfully the challenges. We've heard them. Many of us here are parents. So we feel for you, and we are all working together. Like they've said, there have been conversations happening, and I know they'll continue. I'm going to say this here. There's nothing stopping all families from Kakite or anywhere else writing letters, doing letter campaigns to TransLink. There is nothing stopping you. You have great voices. They need to be heard.
Thanks. Any other pieces on this one? Okay, seeing none, then I think, oh, Trustee Andres.
Sorry, just if no one else, I just wanted to add, I saw that there was this survey that the PAC's already done in terms of seeing the different childcare providers, and I hadn't really realized this before. I was talking with some parents at the kindergarten information session at NW, which was last week. Okay, and they were saying that one of the main issues, if I was hearing correctly, is that these kindergartens right now do take, or sorry, these before after school programs, these childcare programs take children only to Kakite, but potentially do not take them to Herbert Spencer. Was that correct? I was just wondering if the board might also potentially have a role in facilitating conversations with these providers, like if we were able to get a list of these childcare providers, potentially we could reach out to them and see if they would be able to change what they're doing and potentially take some of their students to another school. So I was just hopeful about that opportunity as well. Thank you.
So I think we're getting well into the weeds in some cases of like how we're going to make it work. We're trying to work with our partners and come up with options. I think that the walking school bus conversations have been around the notion of 102 to 105 to the school and then back. And then is there an option for walking school bus adjacent to those facilities, perhaps from Kakite to Spencer and then back to Kakite as a central site from those centers. So that's the kind of conversation that we're having today. But they're all sort of there with us, sort of just now starting to imagine how we might be able to make things work. But that's where we're at.
Thanks very much. I think just on the childcare piece, that is in fact the next thing on our agenda. So we'll get an update on that enabling legislation and the district's future ability to deliver out of school care. But we are at this point, I think, with the information we have so far, we're concerned about how viable that option is. So anyway, not to get ahead of ourselves, I think we'll maybe move to that agenda item and hand it over to Secretary Treasurer Ketchum.
I'm not sure that there's much more to add in terms of the Bill 19 conversation. Obviously, it's not yet passed. We're monitoring closely, but it is enabling legislation, not mandated legislation. So it is language to open up opportunities for districts, but a lot of unknowns that follow this. And so again, we're actively monitoring. And once additional information is available, we'll be better positioned to bring back information to the board for proper decision making. One thing that we can say with certainty is that the offering of infant toddler care, given our current context of our enrollment pressures, is not going to be on the table. Obviously, those services of infant toddler programming and the instructional day conflict. And so really our focus as a board has always been on the school age care in terms of before and after care opportunities. And so that's where we'll focus in on our time as we monitor this legislation. So again, this is as an update to say we'll update you when we know more, but just wanted to get here that to the public, to the board, that we are monitoring and are aware of these changes. Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else about that one? Okay. NWSS 5-block model update. Looking forward to hearing how this implementation has gone. Associate Superintendent Lawler.
Thank you very much. So as you know, we implemented this new 5-block model this year. And so I'm going to provide you with an update that will give you some insight into how it's been going for everybody at the school so far. So next slide. So first, with regard to timetable status, most student timetables are now settled, though some students are still requesting to drop NWSS classes in favor of online options. And in some cases, that's leaving them with only 2 or 3 classes in NWSS. Since the timetable change deadline has passed, such requests are only considered under extenuating circumstances, and our counselors and admin team have been incredibly thoughtful and thorough when they're spending time listening to students with regards to their situation and are carefully assessing whether the circumstances that the students are presenting are within these criteria for exceptions. I also want to note that we do appreciate the students who have been making every effort to engage with the process, and the staff there remains committed to balancing student requests with being able to operate the school in a productive way. I also will note that blocks B, C, and D continue to be at full capacity for classroom use. So we'll be examining that as we move through this year. Next slide. In terms of the shift to online learning, which I mentioned in the first slide, we are noticing a trend with some students choosing online courses, whether that be New West Online or out of district, due to unmet personal preferences. Now, by those personal preferences, I mean, we're hearing things from students in that they're having difficulty with getting up in the morning and getting to early classes. Their classes that end later in the day are impacting their extracurricular activities, or perhaps they have an after-school job and that's being impacted. So those are some things that we are hearing from students. Online educators are providing consistent support and communication, yet some students are still struggling to stay engaged in the online learning environment. And as a result, the staff at New West Secondary School are noticing that some students are disengaging from their online learning and opting to spend time just being in the Grand Commons. And so that has been causing some concern where students are not fully engaged in the learning, and it may be impacting their friend groups as they see their friends hanging out in the Grand Commons. And, so it's impacting overall. So the admin are monitoring that as well. Next slide. The next item is student attendance concerns. So there is a noticeable drop in attendance after lunch, as many students are not returning to school after lunch break. School administration have been communicating with students and families about these attendance issues. However, despite their efforts, they are not noticing any uptick in those attendance patterns at this time. And next slide. And then this next one now, teacher feedback on the 5-block model. So teachers have been sharing their input with administration regarding the new schedule. They were asked the questions, what are the challenges or the benefits of our 5-block model? And how do you think it's impacted your work, collaboration, and overall well-being? There have been quite mixed responses. Some are positive, some are negative, and some people are saying that for them, it's just too early for them to tell. So these conversations will be ongoing again as we move through the year and hear from teachers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sobering update. Trustee Delaware?
Yeah, I just had a question. Do you know if these are similar like issues that other districts with the 5-block model are having?
I haven't looked into any of that, so
Okay.
I'm not certain.
Trustee Connolly?
Thank you for that. There's obviously some very concerning pieces in there. When you say noticeable absences after lunch? How many students are we talking about?
I don't have the specific data. I just heard just that general comment from the administration. Yeah.
And a follow-up question as well. So you're gathering this data and can parents and students perhaps take away from this that there will be changes
Yes.
for next year's rollout? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Trustee Carlson.
Thank you. Sorry, excuse me. Thank you for this. I do know that a number of grade 11 and 12 students, they overload their schedules in grade 9 and 10. So they don't require, like you're saying, some of them are only taking 2 or 3 classes. I know a number of students who are only taking 2 classes this term and 2 classes next term because that's all they need to graduate. Not sure if that is figured into this, but I've also heard from a number of students that they're not liking how the 5 block model because they don't see their friends. Some of them are finished in block D, some are finished in block E, some have actually had to quit their jobs. Yeah, I'm not sure what we can do about that, but it is something I've been hearing. And my last question is, I have heard for many years from many people in the school that there are many students hanging out in the Grand Commons. I wonder if there was ever a number taken there compared to what it is now, but there has always been many students hanging out in Grand Commons.
Thanks. With regard to your first comment with students only taking 2 courses if they're in grade 11 and 12, yes, that's what I mean when I say that the counselors and admin are looking at the student programming. And they just want to make sure that students have the number of credits that they need to graduate. And we're aware that students are sometimes opting to take the minimum number of credits. Yes. Yeah. And with regard to the Grand Commons and the data about students in there, I'm sorry, I don't have any specific information. I can just go by some conversations with the administration about what they're hearing from their staff and what they're noticing themselves. Yeah.
Superintendent Davidson.
An expected outcome of 5 block, though, was going to be that there would be students who would have spaces in the middle of their schedule. So if you think of, I think there are 600 grade 12s. Yeah. So if you know they each have 1 block off in a semester, you could imagine to be 120-ish, 140, 150 students who would either go off campus or hang out in the Grand Commons. So one of the things that so we were heading to the school one day for an event, and my wife was like, all of these kids are just walking across the road against the light. And I said, yep. But think about the last time we went to a hockey game. You've got at that time of day about 2,200 young people who are let out of a building. And sometimes it's hard to sort of wrap your head around the scope of that place. At any given time, hundreds of kids don't have a class, and that's okay. What I am impressed with is the behavior of them in the Grand Commons for the most part. I think some of the work that we're doing, and we've already had conversations with other districts about the way they distribute access to those blocks. So one of the things we tried to do this year was have A to D, B to E schedules. But in doing that, we didn't get the maximum benefit out of what 5 block could do. And so some districts have 8s and 9s, for example, they come A to D. Grade 10s come B to E, and 11s and 12s could be anywhere from A to E. They're going to have an extended day. So there are things we're going to have to consider to better distribute students across the schedule, which will mean more students will be able to select an in-person class that they want and not perhaps choose online because they couldn't get it to line up. So there's some revisions we know we have to make already.
Thanks, Mark. Trustee Sluse. You're good? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, that takes us then to 7F, Policy 27, Evaluation of Educators. And Jen Richter is going to present to us. I know there's been a lot of work done on this evaluation policy.
just while Director Richter is getting squared away, I'll just quickly introduce this and first of all, thank you for your work over the span of several years, along with Executive Director
Weston.
West. I don't think as well when I'm sick, Robert. For you shouldn't. You know I love you. But the work that's been done over time and the many conversations that were had with NWTU around this, I think this policy reflects a good deal of conversation and revision and hearing the thoughts of our partners in development. I think it also brings us in line with what is the norm throughout our region in terms of having evaluation of teachers as built in as part of the culture and an expectation in that it provides a level of assurance to teachers that we're present for them, that we want to understand their practice, and we want to be available to them to support them in their practice. And so this is the intent of this policy, and I very much appreciate the work that's gone into developing it.
Okay, over to you.
Thank you. So this evening, the evaluation of educators policy is being brought forward tonight for board approval. The proposed policy, as reviewed by the coordinating committee, reinforces a commitment to ensuring the highest quality of teaching and learning for all students in New Westminster Schools. It will support a clear and consistent framework for evaluating and supporting educators in a manner that promotes professional growth and collaboration. Grounded in a culture of professional respect, the policy highlights the importance of ongoing growth and reflective practice. It aligns with the professional standards for BC educators, the BC School Act, and the collective agreement, providing the foundation for establishing a clear, We're looking for defining shared expectations and responsibilities. The goal is to ensure that evaluation supports meaningful dialogue, professional learning, and continuous improvement in a supportive way for teaching and leadership. So it's our ask this evening that the board consider adopting the evaluation of educators policy as presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustees, any comments or questions? Trustee Connolly.
Just a comment. I just want to express gratitude for the work that was put into this and the ability to collaborate and listen. The coordinating committee has proven to be valuable as an opportunity to be a kind of sounding board before these policies and APs are brought forward to the board. So I just wanted to point that out and thank you for being willing to work on this and adapting it as requested. Thanks.
I'd like to mention that the work will be ongoing. We are looking forward to continued conversations and collaborations with the teachers union. We have another meeting already scheduled as we're looking at the administrative procedure that in support of this, but those conversations are meant to continue. We're looking forward to that collaboration.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, then can I get a motion that the Board of Education School District Number 40 New Westminster approve policy 27 evaluation of educators as presented? Moved, seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much for all your work on this. Okay, and then we have some administrative procedures that have been finalized by staff. These come to the board for information only. Are we speaking to these? You are happy to take questions if need be. Yeah, okay. We did go through them at the coordinating committee with our partners as well. Yeah, any questions on these? I know that there was discussion at the committee around counseling consent. And I hadn't realized that we already do have a consent form for counseling for children. I think that is limited to students who are 12 or younger. Is that right? And that there's a little more flexibility for older students who might want to to get yeah, counseling support confidentially. Anything else on that? Okay. Then we are at new business, and we were going to ask for a 5-minute recess just so we could get the material up on screen, if that's okay. So if the board could reconvene at 10 minutes to 8. Thank you. Okay, everybody, thanks for the little break. We are gonna look at a number of motions that were put forward for tonight's meeting. And again, apologies for the mix-up because a couple of them, the wording is incorrect and one was missed. So we're gonna fix all of that. First motion, Trustee Connolly brought forward is around road safety at Royal Avenue around Kite. Do you want to speak to this? And I believe in this case, the recommendation language in your package is correct. Yeah. Oh, do you want to just walk people through it?
I won't go on at length because the backgrounder is there. It was, and I've since learned that the PAC from the school has also done some advocacy around this piece, which is good to hear. So basically, backgrounder came about because, and this motion came about because of a concern I felt every time I drove by that school. I asked the superintendent, and our facilities director had already done some exploration and connection with the city, and it's looking like the extent of their work is spelled out in this backgrounder. We have since been invited to participate in a safety forum, and I think that as such, it would be worthwhile for the board to express some urgency, support of, and urgency around these safety upgrades that are quite critical from my perspective. So,
Thank you very much for bringing this forward. And once I wasn't aware of it, but once you pointed it out to me, it's I could see the concern and that the distance from road to embankment, which is the hill above Kakite, being quite a small rim, and that during the winter break, a vehicle did go over that embankment and land in the school parking lot. So, yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely warranted. Any discussion from trustees? Trustee Carlson.
If that's a motion, I'll second it so we can discuss it.
Sorry, thank you. That would be good. Look at that's moved and seconded. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
I'm in full agreement.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll go straight to the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Get that letter out shortly. The second one on historical preservation, this one, your package is incorrect. The board has the correct wording in front of you, and Secretary Treasurer has it, I think, up on the screen. Did you want to, move this one as well?
Well, given that it wasn't part of the package, I don't know. I don't care to necessarily read, but mostly this was about recognizing that we have a lot of history in New Westminster, and there's a lot of value to celebrating and sharing our history. It gives students a sense of belonging. It helps educate us about some of the not so good pieces of our history as well. And moving forward, as we are possibly looking at deconstructing more schools, replacing other schools, even as we move forward with our existing schools and upgrades and whatnot inside, renovations, that type of thing. I think it's important that there's some guidance and direction so that contractors and staff really understand the value in these pieces. And I think that this, having an AP or policy or both will help to, I think, will help to bring some of those pieces into the classroom as well, which is another piece of this that's really important to me, is allowing for students in our district to understand, the place that they're growing up and the schools that they're in and that type of thing. So that's where this came from.
Thank you very much. Let's get a seconder. Thank you. It's moved and seconded. Discussion, Trustee Dallowell.
I just want to speak in support of this motion. I will say that the original motion included in our board package confused me a lot. And I had no idea what we were trying to do with that. So it really helps having like the context, and the examples as well. I do think it's really important. West has so much history, and so did our high school and our other schools. So it is, really important that we consider how do we maintain some of that. So thank you.
Trustee Andres.
So I'm a bit of an archival nerd, and just looking through the City of New Westminster archives, this was kind of not really a formal practice that we had, but we do have a large collection that spans 1905 to 1993, and it's about 11,000 documents. It's got like clippings, it's got annuals, it's got student publications, minutes. It's very, very rich. But the process of the compilation and the handing in of that and the establishment of that was driven by the school board back in 1993, and as well as and NWSS and a small number of former students. So, I'm hopeful for this. I fully support this, and I think I know we have passionate members of our community who have done this kind of work in the past, and I think it is our responsibility to take the lead and make sure that happens again. Thank you.
Trustee Connolly.
Sorry, I just would also like to publicly send a huge thank you to our facilities director, Matt Brio. It's, going through this process, it's come to my attention that he has actually been our salvager and has taken it upon himself, as we were tearing down some of our schools, to capture some pieces that were, that do hold value. And it's my understanding he's storing them in his office currently. So just a big thank you to him, and I hope that you can pass that on, because it is important, I think, for us to be able to understand some of these pieces, the good, the bad, and celebrate the good, and learn from maybe some of the not so good pieces of our history as well. So thank you to Matt.
Thank you so much. Seeing no other speakers, then I think we're ready to go to the vote on this one. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. The next motion was on literacy costs, and Trustee Connolly, you were concerned that you were thinking to withdraw this one.
I'm thinking to table it to our next meeting. I think the changes are fairly significant to what was actually in the package, and I think it would be good for the board to have time to go over it, and I don't think it's one that necessarily can be absorbed just by a quick once over read. So, and in the interest of time.
Okay. If the board's in agreement, we could just have a motion to table then to our next open board meeting. So moved. Thank you. And seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Motion is tabled. And then the last one is Trustee Connolly, you were prolific. The advocacy for the continuation of the BC Student and Family Affordability Fund.
Yeah, I think this speaks for itself, and that's why I think it's okay for the board to vote on it tonight. It essentially identifies the amount of funds minus the feeding futures that our district alone is in a shortfall of, which stands at around $250,000. I think that it's really important that we communicate to the ministry that, I don't think our affordability crisis is in any way over, and in some instances I think it's perhaps even getting worse. So these are really relied upon funds. I've been at PAC meetings and heard from principals and PAC members about how much they've appreciated these funds, have come to rely on them, and are concerned about how they're going to have to fundraise and that type of thing to meet the needs that these funds were covering. So.
Okay, great. Can we get a mover and seconder? Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Just want to point out there's a three-parter to this. So it's including along with writing a letter, would also like to include stories and data about the impact. And I think that we can gather some of those and then also presenting a motion to BCSTA for our AGM so that this can be done at a provincial level as well.
Great. Okay, thanks. I think people can see the recommendation. If it's okay, I will not read the whole thing. We'll go to a vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, great. Thank you. For old business, we had board advocacy on here. I'm actually going to ask that we table this one as well. There's a couple of pieces in play, and in the interest of time, I would be happy to bump it to our next meeting if that's okay. I guess if we could have a motion to table. Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, so now we're at question period. And this is an opportunity for questions. Sorry,
I think we missed use of e-scooters and okay.
Okay, sorry.
Family
I
affordability fund.
thought it didn't make it onto the list. Sorry, I'm looking at a different version of the agenda. E-scooters. Yeah, so this is something that that a couple of us raised following an accident involving there was actually been a couple of accidents involving New Westminster students. I've raised informally with I think a couple of city councillors who explained to me that e-scooters are only legal in 5 communities in British Columbia where there's a pilot project going on. New Westminster is not one of them. And so the use of e-scooters is actually not legal for riders of any age, but therefore not at all for children. I think a few of us are concerned. Obviously, active transportation is so great, but seeing kids bombing around without helmets in the middle of traffic really, really worries me. And I think that when we see children do things that are unsafe, we should probably stop them. But to that point, I just asked Superintendent Davidson if he could poke around. Trustee Connolly raised it as well. And so I wonder if you could just give us a brief report. I know that staff needs some time to do work, so we're not looking for a recommendation right now.
I know that at least one district, Surrey School District, within the last 2 weeks, issued direction that e-scooters are not permitted on school grounds at all. You can't park them there. You can't store them there. You're not to ride them on school grounds because Surrey, like us, they're not actually legal on the roads. That's the only district that I know has taken that step so far. So there's a little more research to do and a few more conversations to have in order to understand the scope of districts who've made that decision. I certainly understand the desire to consider it because, yeah, it is scary. Young people flying up and down hills, no helmet, sometimes 2 to a scooter on sidewalks. It's pretty scary, and it's not just student age people either. But so I think it's a reasonable conversation to have about whether or not we're aligned with what's legal in community.
Thank you. Trustee Carlson.
Thank you. I'd like to propose that our initial focus as a board be placed on education and awareness, because I'm not sure that all parents know that they're illegal. So I think if we as a board can focus on awareness and education before implementing, which I'm all in favor of.
Fair point. Trustee Connolly.
Yeah, I concur with that. And I'm actually, full disclosure, e-scooters are not something in my life right now, thankfully. And I had you see them everywhere. I actually had no idea until I started, doing a little digging once some of these accidents had occurred, that they are actually illegal. So, it's not just scary to see it. It's actually, people are breaking the law. And I think that it makes our decision as a school pretty straightforward. We are not going to encourage kids to break the law as they make their way to school. It's not our law. It's the city's law. So it seems fairly simple, but I do, yes, agree. An education piece is a big part of that as we are schools. I would also like to throw out the idea of since we're talking about active transportation and safety concerns, a dismount, some dismount signage outside of the high school. I was coming out of an event the other evening and, you know, there's no signage to let people know to dismount. And like you talked about, you know, there's thousands of kids going out of there at certain times of the day. There's kids all, you know, in the evenings when it's dark out and people bombing along on that bike lane, not doing anything wrong because they've not been told anywhere to please dismount. There's not even a crossing sign, like a student crossing or something. And I know a lot of parents are dropping off there or waiting in the parking lot. So kids are just running out and not necessarily looking for bikes, looking for cars, but not necessarily bikes. So. And sorry, I will add also, since we're on the law, it's also come to my attention that e-bikes are not allowed to be ridden by anybody under the age of 16. So that's something that we should also probably be acknowledging and including in these types of things moving forward.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to have a preliminary conversation about that. And we'll discuss it again. So with the board's agreement, I'm wondering if we could do the question period before our trustee reports. I just know it's getting late and people have been waiting to address the board. Is that okay?
Yes, and I'll lighten the mood. The Blue Jays won 6-2.
Amazing. I'm going to take that as agreement. Thank you. Okay. So we are going to move to the question period. This is your opportunity to, I think we can do comments and questions on matters that were on the agenda at the meeting, and you have up to 3 minutes. And we ask you to just introduce yourself with your full name. And we'll start with those in the room if anybody wanted to come and speak. Okay, great. Go ahead. And if you want to just take a seat and then press the button and give it a second to turn green and then tell us your full name.
My name is Allison Eitzma. So I'm curious about the language you said about the school board will facilitate connection between parents of early French immersion and the walking school bus. We know that there is a monetary cost that the district right now for the walking school bus does support the walking school bus. So if the Society for Children and Youth are interested in facilitating a walking school bus, will there be monetary support from the school district?
Say that's something we could consider. We also try and work with partners to get other people to pay for anything we can, because, you know, that's always a good idea. So I would say it's something that we could consider, but that would be first seeking partners to take care of it with us and for us.
Right. I just have one other follow-up question. So with the expansion of after-school care at Herbert Spencer, there was a communication to French immersion parents at Kakite saying that there's additional spaces available. However, there will not be given any sort of priority in terms of on the wait list. I just wonder if you can speak to that again.
Yeah, I know I've had conversations with the director of WCAS and have a meeting on Thursday. But as our partner, we don't direct how they use their or how they employ their wait list. And so I think the position that they've taken has been pretty clearly if people who are already on the wait list stay on the wait list in that priority position. And so that's their position. So the work that we're doing is trying to see what might be possible when we see what regulations come out of Bill 19, what might be possible with WCAS and other partners for before and after school care across the district. And hopefully you'd be able to create enough spaces that wait lists would get shorter or go away. But we also know that there are a whole bunch of factors that have made that hard for our existing partners, including staffing and so on. So that's the answer to the question. They set their wait list and we don't have influence over that.
Is there a possibility if extra space is provided by the school district to expand that program, that would be made a requirement of that space?
Keep this for a little bit. I think there's some pretty considerable decisions that need to be made between now and then. And part of it is based on what regulations and so on come out of the Amendment Act. Part of it to be whether or not we pursue partnership with partners as opposed to operating them ourselves. There's a lot of reason and benefit to have partners operate those programs for us, and so we need to first work with the board to determine if that's their will, and then if it is, then we would need to seek partners to see if we can stand up that many spots.
Thank you.
Of course.
I think there's a couple of people online, but if we'll just go for folks in the room, go ahead.
There we go. I was waiting to see if anybody else was going to jump in first. Sloan Drennan, a longtime volunteer board member with the Canadian Parents for French here in New Westminster. Canadian Parents for French is a national organization of parents, educators, and volunteers who support French language learning here in Canada. So that's where we are. I don't want to elaborate anymore on a fabulous presentation by the Kakite parents, but we do want to make sure that this is not a short-term problem. In a district where you are putting your child on a list for daycare as soon as they are born and after school care, your child might leave elementary school before you get a call saying your child has a spot. 10 months is not a lot of time in where people are buying houses, who don't own cars, who need access. So we want to ensure that looking forward, in a 1/3, 2/3, where there's still one stream at Tweedsmuir and two potentially now at Herbert Spencer, that we are continuing to have equity and access to those programs for people who do live along the bottom of New Westminster. They are, we've got hills. And so we are trying to make sure that that equity and that access for everyone who wants access to French immersion programs is given there. And that transportation and childcare, it's chicken and egg. Which one comes first, your transportation or your childcare? So we just want to ensure that we're moving forward with more recommendations from that program of choice review as well. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sloan. Yeah, that's points well taken. We don't provide French language education in every neighborhood, of course, but we know that for those where there's an established program, we're working very hard to make it work as much as we possibly can. I think it's fair to say. Any other speakers?
Are you taking comments from people online right now?
We were going to go through the speakers in the room first, yeah, and then we'll come to those online. Go ahead.
Hi, Joseph Wilmot. I've actually had both my children graduate from Kakite as of last year. Couple questions to the board. One would be, with the amalgamation of the school, have you guys considered adding another kindergarten class? My big concern right now is, with my experience with Kakite, because you do get people dropping out, there was a lot of split classes. Personally, I think it's very important to keep the French program in New Westminster. I think there's value in it. I think with the amalgamation, you're going to probably going to drop, I don't know, 15 to 20% automatically. I think, and my understanding is with specifics to the kindergarten introduction of the French program, it's there's way more applicants than there's spots. I think in order to we talked earlier, or you guys talked earlier about programs of choices, and the two contributing factors are going to be financial as well as the seats, or basically who's in the program. Have you guys, I guess, long story short, have you guys considered adding another kindergarten class at Herbert Spencer?
So there'll be 2 kindergarten classes at Spencer for intake, which would be the same number of kindergarten classes. Long term, it would be excellent for us to add a kindergarten class on the other side, right, to Tweeds in order to have more opportunity. But we wouldn't be able to do that until we get more elementary capacity, re-examine the catchment areas for the new school and existing schools in order to make space for program of choice to be there. So we are really supportive of the notion of expanding immersion by having more kindergarten classes, but we have to create the space in order to make it possible.
I'd like to see the board make that a priority. I think in order for this to be a success, I think, well, as I said, typically growth, in order to kind of keep those numbers up during, as I said, the 4, 5, 6, 7 is all I would, I guess I would recommend. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, I saw a couple of other people here in the room. Do you want to come forward?
Hi, I'm Sarah Richmond. Thank you very much for tonight and the communications in the past few weeks. So I'm one of those families that's affected by the our current before and after care arrangement only servicing Kite. So I'm understanding a bit more now how it works with WCAS and the school board property, and I would hope that conversations that are being continued between the school board and WCAS, there might be some progress there on that point and giving priority, because I just don't see how for a lot of families that this will work at all. My question though that have come right now is I think a lot of us will be hopeful that we can figure it out in the next coming months, and will optimistically make that election January 30th to move to Herbert Spencer, and we'll scramble and try and be creative for many months. But if August comes and we just can't figure it out, and we need to pull out of that program, can we then at that point, end of August, early September, go to KK in the English program? And thanks.
Yeah, great question. And that has been discussed and is agreed, but maybe I'll let the superintendent say that.
Yes, absolutely. Because the vast majority of folks who are in early French immersion live within Kakite's area. So, given the extent of this change, we wouldn't displace someone who wanted to stay in the English program. That's not a thing.
Okay, who's next up?
Hi, I'm Sarah Arboleta. I have a kindergartner at Kakite. I wasn't really anticipating speaking, but one of the things that has kind of leapt out to me as I've heard a lot of the parents talking this evening, particularly the delegate from Kakite and some of the speakers who've spoken, is that obviously I am previously known to the board from moves that happened with the daycare program at Kakite Elementary as well, due to very similar overcrowding concerns. And to be honest, the thing that really leaps out to me and that I find incredibly disappointing sitting here almost 3 years to the day later is that the very same concerns around communication, around organization, around thoughtfulness about what this means for parents when it comes to transportation, when it comes to how they're going to organize their lives and their children's lives, nothing has changed. In talking to the parents during our brief recess, many of them were saying that the first they had really ever heard that this was going to impact them was 3 weeks ago. And then what Ms. Drennan stated, as well, is that 10-month guideline just it's not enough. And quite frankly, when these issues were being raised in October of 2022, we already knew. Everybody currently sitting at one of these gray desks knew that programs of choice were almost certainly going to be making this move as well. So there, I think, is a very serious question to be asked. Why, when parents were registering for French immersion, when they were making very permanent or semi-permanent housing choices, putting their kids in Kakite, making that decision around choosing Kakite maybe over another school or other programs for that French immersion, why that wasn't being clearly communicated to them, and then why notice of this move couldn't have been made, in 2024 when it was even further solidified. When I would come here meeting after meeting, or my partner would come here meeting after meeting to discuss how this was impacting daycare parents, the reality was we made all of these same concerns known. It was not enough time to organize our lives. It was not enough time to find alternate arrangements. It was not enough time to petition TransLink to change, how they were going to have buses going to different areas. So, I didn't have anything organized. Obviously, this is a bit of a ramble, but at the same time, I do sit here 3 years later, wondering why nothing has changed in this approach. Thank you for your time.
Well, I have to disagree with the premise. I would say a lot has changed. There is a great deal of care and thought put in. I'm sorry that doesn't come across to you sitting here, but I'm confident that these decisions are very well considered. We are running a district with thousands of children, and our staff work extremely hard to juggle these decisions. A decision can't be communicated before it's been made, and it simply was not made any earlier. And we're doing that. Our staff are doing that, and with board support as soon as we can. Yeah.
I think one of the challenges that we face as a community is one that is we are left to respond and don't have as much control as we would hope. So last year we grew by 5%, where most districts in the region didn't make their enrollment projections. In fact, some declined. This year we grew by 1%, and Surrey went down by over 700 students. And so the pace of growth and the fact that we haven't had the construction of new schools means that we're making decisions that are certainly not ones that we would like to have to make. And sometimes the solution to problems of the scope and pace that we're experiencing can be really challenging. To make a decision that was perfect, we would have to give a 5-year out decision because that's how long the wait lists are. But our enrollment growth is so dramatic that wouldn't be possible for us. I'll offer another thought. I was principal of 2 dual track French immersion high schools, and my last school district had 800 fewer students than this school district does today. Well, it had 200 fewer when I was hired. It has 800 fewer today, and I've been here just over a year. That school district had a dual track French immersion school with 450 students K to 6, one school, in a school district that was more than 7 times the area as New Westminster. And so we've been operating 3 very small programs. One might say they were almost boutique sized programs. And that has had an impact on our ability to find teachers to support programs. We know that we've had classes go months without a qualified immersion teacher because we haven't been able to staff them. If I had been able to combine 2 classes that were sitting at 13 and 15, we would have been able potentially to have a teacher there sooner. And so there are very real benefits, but there are also some real realities that we have to sort of come to terms with. Programs of 114 and 124, 3 programs in a city as small as ours geographically and in terms of the population of students, has always been a stretch for this board. That's why then when the report was published, it made the recommendation it did. And to be frank, everybody who read that report at that time knew that that decision was going to need to be made sometime within the next several years, right? It wasn't a decades out decision. I agree with what Chair, thank you. What is happening to me? I am. But you can't communicate a decision until you've made the decision. And the fact is that we have physical space that allows us to have young people move to a building proper, have a lower percentage of our students in portables, and receive excellent programming from teachers who would move with them to the program. And so I know it's not perfect. And we are working really hard to try and come up with arrangements to account for the challenges that this decision creates. We can't promise that all of those things will happen, but I can tell you, I've spent today the better part of 2 hours having conversations about it. I'll have more conversations on Thursday. Bettina is chasing it. Ileana is chasing it. We're working hard, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do things that while they won't make it perfect, will help a little. Chair Russell.
Superintendent should be in bed. Okay, all good. Thank you. Any other speakers in the room? Otherwise, I would like to go to those online who've been waiting patiently. Patrick, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for allowing me to make some comments and ask a few questions. My family is going to be affected by the move of early French immersion out of Kikite. It's going to cause us some hardship, but it's going to cause even more hardship for other families that have different circumstances. And I find it really saddening to hear people having to struggle to find after school care and worrying about whether or not they can actually keep their children in the program. And I also want to point out about a school, the EFI children at Kikite and also the parents. We aren't isolated as EFI students and parents. We have relationships with other people at the school. Our children have friendships with students outside of EFI. We have friendships with parents outside of EFI. And so that is also going to be impacted by this decision. And I do really think it's an unfair decision. I feel that if you've been offered a space in an EFI program at a specific school, that the district has made a promise to you that you can stay at that school through to the end of the program there. And so I feel that it reflects poorly on the integrity of the district that this is happening. Also, I want to point out the optics of moving EFI out of an inner city school into a school in a neighborhood where the homes are all around $2 million. A few questions I have are, why not? If this needs to be done, and I don't think it needs to be done, but if it really needed to be done, why isn't it being phased out so that students are there, can continue through until they need to go to middle school? The other question I have is about the catchment. Seeing the population growth downtown, why wasn't the catchment altered earlier? If you look at the Victoria Hill neighborhood, it's equidistant between Kikite and Herbert Spencer. It seems that there are solutions other than kicking out EFI students from Kikite. That's all I have to comment on or ask.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. I just wanted to address a couple of the points you've made. So one, that the feeling of the district making a promise. I've registered kids in school, and I understand we're placing, you know, that these little people who mean the world to us, and it is a relationship of trust, absolutely. But our programs of choice, we are clear in our policies that they are subject to relocation. Because the work of managing enrollment and capacity is a challenge, and those are the decisions the board has made after consulting with families around, you know, what are their priorities, and we landed on protecting the ability for families to enroll in their neighborhood school in the mainstream program. That is the first thing that we prioritize. The question around sort of income and equity has come up a number of times. I appreciate that concern. We did check the socioeconomic census data, and Lord Kelvin is our school that has the lowest income. Kakite is actually second to highest in terms of the catchment. So I think the neighborhood has changed quite a bit, because that historically was not the case. And then the question about phasing it out, the superintendent addressed that earlier, but the experience that he's brought to us from other jurisdictions is that that's the way we kill a program, basically, that it fizzles out until classes are too small to be viable. And then why was the catchment not changed earlier? There's a number of reasons for that, I guess, but the big one being that as we advocate for the school construction, that is one of our top priorities as a board. Those are pieces we have no control over, that timing. So we're in a chasing and a waiting game, where we're advocating for priority construction projects, but we can't control when they come. And what we don't want to do is to have to change the catchment annually, because it's extremely disruptive. You're seeing the impact here of these 114 spaces. And so we don't want to do that any more than we have to, because it is so disruptive to families, and for these exact reasons around childcare and transportation. So for better or for worse, the administration decision to relocate this one program of choice is, I think, the one that makes sense. I don't see any other speakers online. If there is anybody, if you want to just turn on your camera. Okay, yeah, Kat, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Catherine Zielinski. I'm a parent of a EFI child at the Kakite program. My question is regarding Bill 19. What is the timeline? I mean, what happens next? So it's been announced. What happens next? Is there consultation with school districts? And if there are any changes, is it possible? So for example, my child right now is with a Seamless Day program at Kakite, which I believe is a government supported program. Again, I share the same concern. I've put my child in these wait lists like 5 years when they're babies. And so again, this 10-month notice is not sufficient. And we are planning to move our child to Herbert Spencer, but the childcare is a really big piece. And so just focusing on this new bill that the government has announced, what is the possibility that this will help us in September of 2026? How will this affect the Seamless Day program, for example? Will it be expanded to Herbert Spencer? Thank you. That's my question.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Catherine. These are great questions that the board has been discussing as well with our staff. We are waiting, the timing is the challenge. We're waiting to see the details of the regulation around Bill 18, which allows, Bill 19, thank you, allows districts to cover reasonable costs. What we don't know is what is counted as reasonable costs, and then what the fees would look like for families. So I would say at this point, with the amount of information that we have, we are leaning towards looking at third-party options that have less uncertainty, because the top priority, I think, here is to ensure that we have before and after school care for the families that are in those seamless day programs. So that's what we're focused on, let's be honest, our staff are focused on, is pursuing ways to bridge from the seamless day programs at Kakite to something more long-term. But what we're trying for is that there be no interruption in service before and after school service. Is there anything you would add to that, Superintendent Davidson?
I think just that we understand that the community needs us to work to support before and after school care. We also know that we're limited in our ability to do those things by what funding is provided, what we're allowed to charge in terms of fees, what's sustainable in the space that we have. And so we anxiously are anxiously awaiting those regulations that come from the legislation. And then we need to start having conversations with partners about what's possible for them, because you can say you're willing to, let's say, have before and after school care in all 8 elementary schools. But if your partners aren't able to staff that, then you don't want to make empty promises either. And so we'll work really hard to know what's possible and then pursue anything that we can do.
And I would just further say that we, commit to getting information to families in the programs as soon as we possibly can. Any other speakers or questions online? Give you a minute to find your unmutes. Okay, I think then, and was there anybody else in the room? Okay, I think we've covered it then. Thanks, everybody, for your thoughtful. Oh, yeah, please go ahead. Actually, maybe I could do that, is introduce the new president of the new Westminster Teachers Union, Daryl Shelp. Delighted that you've taken this on, and we really, really appreciate your partnership and your hard work. Go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Laura Kwong, and I'm the chair of the District Parent Advisory Council here in New West. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update from DPAC and ask questions on behalf of our members. Topic du jour, we would like to reiterate that the real hardship being placed on Ecole Kakite French immersion families with the consolidation to Herbert Spencer is significant. Parents are already flagging barriers for you around transportation and the loss or inaccessibility of existing childcare spots that are tied to Kakite. The short-term capacity slide deck with the note that the district will communicate strategies to employ for the following year by November of each current school year. It's not really encouraging to read. 4 actions that the district takes to address short-term capacity. If those actions touch childcare, transportation, family scheduling, please know that 10 to 12 months is simply not enough time. Sloan spoke very well on that, and it's going to be an issue that comes up time and again as we go through the list of actions that are going to need to be taken in the coming years. We understand that you don't want to communicate or make decisions any earlier than you have to, and there's a cost for making that choice, and the cost is that you're going to have to go through steps to accommodate families that are impacted. So right now, hearing language like we'll do our best to facilitate things, we're trying our best, that's not very encouraging for families that are being put into these situations well beyond our control. I mean, yeah, we talked about wait lists being many years long for childcare spaces, and how the support, if it's provided, would need to be long lasting through the years that it's needed. Yeah, so and then in a similar vein, we'd also like to request that any deadlines for Kakite parents to commit to moving or not moving to Herbert Spencer are after families have some concrete information around transportation and childcare solutions that may be offered. And lastly, when families find themselves in a situation like this, where it's a burden thrust upon them, it upends their carefully balanced schedules and essential moving pieces for their kids, and it leaves us with very little agency. It's natural for the advocacy that comes out of that from parents to sound frustrated or angry. We'd ask that you meet families where they are. Listen with empathy in this room. Do not judge or dismiss advocacy because of the tone that it comes across with. What you are hearing is stress from the real impacts on daily lives. We'd like to also extend our support for the board motions that were presented tonight, in particular, addressing education safety issues for e-scooter use and advocacy for the Student Affordability Fund continuation. E-scooter use education is an issue that over the past year we have had conversations with other DPACs around the province. There are conversations going on in other districts. We've also attempted to reach out to the Ministry of Transportation and ICBC without any success. And so it's clear that there is a lag between transportation technology with these e-scooters and the Motor Vehicle Act and what it allows and does not allow, and then the tools and mechanisms at the disposal of our local police force. So we'd offer that DPAC is committed to supporting communication to families from the district regarding e-scooter usage, as well as provincial advocacy regarding the Affordability Fund continuation. In continuation of the conversation that we started with the district regarding inclusive education, we are very glad to see inclusive ed goals clearly laid out in the annual operating plan. And we would like to offer a request for an additional goal regarding communication with families, targeting consistency and clarity, especially for our IEPs. We would love to see IEP success metrics that are included and focus on creating sustained and supportive and learning environments. Progress for students with IEP should not be equated with withdrawing support. Students' needs evolve, and that doesn't mean that disability or learning differences have been outgrown. A comment that we'd like to offer about something going on outside our district right now. We want to share publicly our concern about Bill M213, which is called the Drug Use Prevention Education in Schools Act. This was introduced by an MLA who in part represents our district. And we read the BCSTA statement that was released yesterday, and we support this statement. DPAC supports robust drug prevention education. However, the provisions in this bill directly conflict with public health evidence. And BCSTA's statement, it again underscores the evidence-grounded substance education and does flag concerns with the bill's approach that we echo. And then, as was brought up tonight, not on the agenda, but mentioned Bill 19, the School Amendment Act. We've had conversations with DPACs around the province around what this might look like if childcare is chosen to be implemented in districts. And we want to highlight that there is a growing concern with the blurred boundaries between K-12 and early years funding for board-run childcare. As districts take on responsibility for 0 to 5 childcare programs, it's critical that these initiatives are supported by separate and transparent funding streams. Using existing education resources to sustain early years programming does put pressure on K-12 operating budgets and can undermine the accountability for how public education dollars are allocated. Further, our district has shown through the history of childcare run on board-owned spaces is that childcare, 0 to 5 childcare, and K-12 education, they are inherently competing priorities. And K-12 education will be prioritized over childcare. So we would offer a caution to not concede immediately to current ministry pressure that may be received to increasing the number of childcare spots without a full commitment to ensuring equality, transparent funding, and longevity for those spaces that are added. And then lastly, we want you to help us spread the word. We are hosting a movie night on Tuesday, November 4th at 6 p.m. We are doing a screening of Screenagers. This is aimed at parents and caregivers of students grades 6 and up. Screenagers is an hour-long documentary. It explores the impact of screen technology on kids and offers parents and families strategies to manage screens in your lives. So we have tickets available on Eventbrite. If you search New SD Pack, it comes up. And that's it. So thank you for the opportunity to provide an update, and thank you for your continued partnership, strength in communication, and evidence-based decision-making. That's it.
Thank you so much. That's awesome advice and updates. Appreciate all of those. I think that we are almost there, folks. Sorry, shuffling my pages. We'll just go to trustee reports and an opportunity for trustees to share highlights of your activity since the last board meeting. Actually, sorry, I think maybe before, I think Robert had a quick piece of information he wanted to share.
Yeah, I would just like to take this opportunity to publicly acknowledge and thank Christy Oxley, who has served until just very recently, and Daryl taking over, for her dedication to the role of president of the NWTU. And I wish her all the best, as we all do, in her new role as the staff rep with the BCTF. She's on a leave of absence from us for a few years, so I'm looking forward to having her back in our district. But I do want to acknowledge and thank her for her commitment.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, and trustees, any updates you want to share? Or are we okay to trustee Sleeves?
Yeah, just a short one. Had the opportunity to participate in a joint city school board planning working group meeting. Attended a couple of School Witch Pack meetings. They knocked it out of the park again with their infamous Halloween howl last week. And then just a really brief update from a SOGI committee meeting that we had in September. We had the opportunity to celebrate the energy and warmth that was present at the New West Pride booth in August. We really do have an incredible group of educators and staff that showed up and created a wonderful and engaging stop for people. We're also in the process of installing Pride logos at the main entrance of every building in our district. This is an important visual reminder of our values and ensures that our students, staff, and families feel welcome when they arrive at our facilities. One exciting new project that the committee is working on is a handbook to support gender identity. And also wanted to just shout out to staff at the district for pulling together a DEIA Voice of Equity series, which provides educators an opportunity to dive into various topics. I think this is a really important opportunity for teachers to delve into the world of DEIA. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Trustee Connolly.
Yeah, I just want to echo the SOGI update and just say that it's really exciting to see staff so engaged in the work that's being done there, and our little district is showing again that we can move ahead of where other districts are at, and they're putting the work in. That the package that you're talking about, the gender identity piece, I think that's coming from a place of there's not a resource like that, and so this is something that I think could be utilized in other districts as well, and they're quite excited about it, and so they should be. I also attended the accessibility committee, and that's another one where much gratitude to staff and the volunteers who were able to attend that. A lot of great work being done, a lot of effort around, looking at how we can advocate together to meet the needs of students in our district. And it's quite exciting to see the excitement and the momentum building. We're going to be identifying a couple of other schools and doing some more assessments, which will be reported out at future meetings. And then I also want to point out, the PAC meetings, I've been going to a number of them. They've been really well attended, and I just want to, express gratitude to parents who are coming out, attending those, being present at the schools. It's really great to see. They're very engaged. There's lots of great questions, lots of great information, and just kudos to all the PACs that are seeing that kind of great attendance. And just on a personal note and a little reminder to everybody, I got my reminder and got my COVID and flu shots, and I would certainly encourage everybody else to do the same.
Great reminder. Trustee Slynn.
Yeah, thanks so much. This is not so much an update. I just wanted to share a few words if I can, just from our meeting this evening. I really appreciate everybody that came out and spoke about the challenges that they're facing for their families and their kids regarding these decisions that happen at the board table. I'll speak for myself personally, and I'll just say, like, the words aren't hollow. When you're speaking them, I receive them. I believe everybody at the board table receives them. And when we say that we are really trying our best to lessen the burden and lessen the load on families in the district and on kids, we sincerely mean it. I don't have kids myself, but I worked at the youth center. I interact with kids a lot. They're important to me. And I really know that everybody here, when they leave the board table, when they leave this office, this isn't just something we put down. It's something we carry with us, trying to find ways to square or put a round peg in a square hole. New West has changed since I was here as a student. There's less space, there's more people. And these are new realities that we have to face and that we have to figure out. So I really do thank everybody that shared, because your feedback is what guides our work here at the table, and our work guides the staff. But we are trying our best, and we're going to try our best to continue to serve the families and the kids of New West, because speaking for myself, that's why I ran. I want to give back to the city that's given so much to me. So it's not an update, it's just how I'm feeling.
Very nice. Well said. Thank you. Trustee Andres.
Keep it short. Yeah, went to some PAC meetings, kindergarten information session as well. It was really nice to talk to some of you parents there and hear your perspectives there too. Anti-racism committee, just wanted to echo Superintendent Davidson's words in welcoming Sanj Johal. Really excited to see the work that he's going to do there. And there's a QP Pro D coming up November 21st that has an anti-racism focus, which is kind of our first kind of piece that he's getting going while he gets his feet under him. I just wanted to highlight an inspiring meeting that we had as a board with accessibility advocate and donor Clint Morrison here at the board office. Clint provides accessibility scholarships in multiple school districts and has lived a very interesting life. And it was an honor and a privilege to hear from him and see the change that he makes through the work that he does. And just a quick update, I'm the rep to the provincial council, and most of that work I can't share here, but they just want to bring to our attention the National Food Program has been made permanent. So that was announced by Mark Carney, and the federal government will be working with provinces to expand the program. So we'll stay tuned on that. And excited for a meeting very early with getting the climate action working group off the ground. So I met with Superintendent Davidson and Director of Instruction Richter, and hopefully we will be starting in November. So very excited. That's very close to my heart. Thank you.
Trustee Carlson.
Thank you. I know it's late. I'll be quick. It's been a full and inspiring month. Truth and Reconciliation event at Queen's Park was especially heartwarming to see so many in our city come together in such a meaningful way. Sorry, I might have what you have. In October, I attended the BCPC communication session, our joint school board and city meeting, now open to the public online, as well as the coordinating meeting committee of the whole and the BCSTA Metro Branch meeting. We're there. We hear that a lot of our local concerns are echoed by other districts. I shared a quick report at DPAC before their evening presentation. Always wonderful to see how engaged and committed our community is, our parent community is. Thank you. Helped set up the kindergarten info session at WSS. Great to see so many staff and community groups working together for our youngest learners. Later in the month, I caught the first hour of the Dyslexia Symposium. Sorry, I wasn't able to stay for our administration's presentation, but I've heard that it went really well. I have every confidence in the excellent work that they do. I will also echo Trustee Slim, and he said he hears you. Like I said, many of us have been through, we're parents, many of us are. We do hear you, and I will say I did not know that the program of choice was going to be moving 2 or 3 years ago. We were hoping not to have to do that. We don't know about the growth in our city, as superintendent stated, other communities, other districts, their enrollment has gone down. We did not know ours would be going up. Looking ahead, I'll be attending the e-scooter discussion, which will be at the Century House at 3:30 on Thursday. And on a positive note, I will be supporting the Dry Grad fundraiser at Meadeds that same evening. Perfect excuse for everybody to order pizza, maybe extra before Halloween, so you don't have to cook. And as always, I want you all to continue to advocate for your kids. It's not easy, but your voices really do make a difference here and at the provincial level.
Thank you. Any other reports? Okay, I think then we are, there is a record of the September 23rd in-camera meeting in your package. And then we're at adjournment, looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved, seconded, all those in favor, any opposed, carried. Thank you so much and good night.